Friday, February 2nd, 2018, evening rush hour on the A19 in North Yorkshire. Among the stream of headlights, one Fiat carried more than just a commuter heading home. Police were watching because inside that car was the key to something far bigger. Back in Greater Manchester, on the edge of a canal in Stalybridge, a quiet apartment block concealed the headquarters of an empire worth over $100 million. And 6 years later, on a separate stretch of motorway in Cheshire, another pursuit would unfold, a desperate chase toward Manchester Airport. 2 different moments, 2 men, linked only by the scale of drugs they moved and the risks they took. This is the story of Marcus Callahan's $100 million empire and Neil Corrigan's motorway escape, and how both were finally brought down. Welcome to UK True Crime Files. Marcus Rico. Anthony Callahan was just 34 when he positioned himself at the head of one of the most organized drug networks in northern England. On paper, he was a company director of Callahan Solutions Limited. In reality, his business dealt in Class A and Class B drugs on what prosecutors called an almost industrial scale. The structure mirrored a legitimate firm. At the top, Callahan, operating from his canal-side apartment in Stalybridge. Below him, Theodore Theo Henry, 30, his right-hand man handling day-to-day operations. Couriers like 25-year-old Neil Henry made repeated runs between Manchester and Teesside. Rui Xu, a 39-year-old money launderer based in Birmingham, moved hundreds of thousands in cash and kept meticulous Mandarin language ledgers. On the receiving end in Middlesbrough was 34-year-old Thomas Jeffrey, head of the Northeast Distribution Network. What set this operation apart wasn't just its scale, it was its discipline. Business premises, debt lists, carefully defined roles. From Manchester to Middlesbrough, the supply line ran with the precision of a logistics company. But its commodity was cocaine, heroin, and cannabis, and its turnover was in the tens of millions. New Year's Eve in Edinburgh is one of the busiest nights of the year. For Marcus Callahan, it was the perfect opportunity to play the successful businessman, rewarding his team. In December 2017, Callahan organized a trip north. 3 trusted associates were booked into the prestigious Principal Hotel, rooms costing over $800 each on Hogmanay. That evening, the group moved to the Opal Lounge nightclub. Surveillance footage later captured Callahan with Thomas Jeffrey and Theo Henry at a VIP table. Bottles of rosé sparkling wine, $3.95, vodka and mixers spread before them. To the casual observer, just another celebration. To investigators reviewing the footage later, it was a supplier cementing loyalty with his biggest buyer. Callahan's method was deliberate, treating clients as partners, mirroring corporate hospitality. The message was clear: this wasn't a loose gang. This was an operation built on trust, investment, and long-term planning. The luxury spending kept buyers close, and the supply line flowing smoothly from Manchester to Teesside. By mid-2017, investigators had begun piecing together the network's rhythms. What they saw wasn't chaotic, it was methodical. Couriers like Neil Henry made repeated journeys between Manchester and Teesside. Vehicles changed regularly. The most telling discovery was an 8-point instruction manual spelling out operational security. Hire cars short-term, cycle through borrowed vehicles, change mobile phones every few weeks. Alongside physical surveillance, investigators unpicked the financial spine. Callahan's moneyman, Rui Xu, was intercepted at Knutsford Services on the M6 in late 2017. Officers seized around $400,000 in cash and Mandarin language ledgers, revealing money laundering through foreign currency, including Japanese yen, before being recycled back into the UK. For investigators, it confirmed this was no street gang. It was a multinational supplier, disciplined and constantly working to stay ahead of the law. The Northeast link was the lifeblood of Callahan's empire. Week after week in 2017, drugs moved from Manchester to Middlesbrough, with mechanical precision, hidden in vehicles blending into motorway traffic. At the centre stood Thomas Jeffrey, head of the Middlesbrough branch. Supporting him, Stephen Zhu, 38, described as a lieutenant in the conspiracy, and Christian Maloney, 33, who helped handle drugs once they arrived. Storage was vital. Richard Llewellyn, 34, provided a safe house in Middlesbrough, where consignments were held before distribution. When officers later searched the address, they discovered cocaine with a street value of around $4.4 million. To investigators, the Northeast supply line showed how the organization had matured: wholesale shipments, trusted regional partners, and millions turning over between cities with the consistency of legitimate trade. At around 5 p.m. on February 2, 2018, officers intercepted a Fiat Tipo driven by courier Neil Henry on the A19. In the boot, 12 kilos of cocaine and just over 13 grams of heroin. The cocaine alone had a wholesale value of over $300,000, potentially $4 million at street level. The significance went beyond the drugs. The delivery was part of a carefully timed cycle. Its loss sent shockwaves through the network. Debts couldn't be cleared, revealing the true rhythm of the business and the relentless pressure to keep the line moving. The seizure provided investigators with a clear evidential thread demonstrating organized movement of drugs on an industrial scale. 2 days after the A19 interception, on February 4, 2018, officers raided Callahan's flat at Canal View in Stalybridge. Inside, heroin, cocaine, around 40 kilograms of cannabis, and cash ranging from $14,000 to nearly $200,000. There were also debt lists and a handwritten dealer's manual, instructions for anyone stepping into the chain of command. 2 weeks later, police returned. Behind kitchen kickboards, they found more drugs in hidden compartments. But what truly escalated the case was the discovery of a firearm, a 9mm Ingram Model 11 submachine gun with 51 rounds of live ammunition. A weapon designed for rapid fire, capable of unleashing dozens of bullets in seconds. Across both raids, the street value of seized drugs was estimated at $32 million. But the ledgers told a wider story, transactions pointing to an overall throughput of more than $100 million, evidence of a business operating at industrial levels for months, if not years. Callahan was arrested at Canal View. Others were picked up as the net tightened: couriers, launderers, regional contacts. By mid-February, a network that had projected itself as untouchable had been exposed from within. When the case reached Manchester Crown Court in September 2018, prosecutors presented overwhelming evidence. Callahan's defense attempted to soften the picture, portraying himself as merely a caretaker providing storage, not a boss. He denied the level of control suggested by the prosecution. The jury rejected that account. The evidence was too consistent. Both Callahan and Neil Henry were acquitted of possessing a firearm with intent to endanger life, but convictions on supply and money laundering charges ensured long sentences. In total, 9 men were sentenced. Judge Martin Rudland told the court this was crime at the highest level, drugs that fueled addiction across the Northeast, bringing burglaries, robberies, and violence in their wake. Marcus Callahan, 24 years, Theo Henry, 21 years, Neil Henry, 12 years, Jerome Hamilton, money laundering only, 4 years, Rui Shu, 6 years, Thomas Jeffrey, 13 years, 4 months, Stephen Shu, 10 years, 8 months, Richard Llewellyn, 7 years. Christian Maloney, sentenced separately. While Callahan's empire was being dismantled, another case was unfolding years later on a different stretch of motorway. Neil Corrigan was 42, living on Main Street in Caton near Scarborough, North Yorkshire. Unlike Callahan, he wasn't running a sprawling empire. His role was simpler but still devastating: a courier and dealer moving consignments of heroin in a single vehicle, relying on speed, nerve, and luck. His vehicle, a white Mercedes Sprinter flatbed van, the kind used for deliveries or small business jobs. On the outside, it blended in. But in March 2024, it carried something far more dangerous. Though unconnected to Callahan's operation, the themes were strikingly similar. Both cases turned on the risks of transporting large amounts of drugs across the country's motorways. Early evening, Tuesday, March 5, 2024. Around 5:30 p.m., traffic moved steadily along the M56 near Warrington. Officers from Cheshire Police's Roads and Crime Unit grew suspicious of a white Mercedes Sprinter van. When they tried to stop it, Corrigan accelerated. The chase lasted miles, drawing in ground units and the police helicopter. Dashcam footage showed Corrigan weaving dangerously between vehicles at speed, mounting curbs, and taking a roundabout the wrong way, creating real danger for unsuspecting motorists. The pursuit pushed east along the A555 toward Manchester Airport. At Terminal 1, Corrigan smashed through a barrier at the entrance to a multi-story car park. Blocked in, he abandoned the van and ran. Officers chased him on foot toward the Radisson Blu Hotel. Within minutes, he was detained. Back on the M56, officers retraced the route and recovered what Corrigan had thrown from the van during the chase. 2 brown packages, each containing a kilo of heroin, and 2 empty bags with drug remnants spilled across the carriageway. The recovered heroin weighed 2 kilograms, with a street value of around $142,150. Given the spillage and empty bags, investigators concluded Corrigan had been moving a larger load, likely worth over $285,000. What began as a traffic stop had turned into the seizure of a significant Class A consignment. The pursuit showed 2 sides of Corrigan's offending. In his van, a cargo capable of flooding communities with misery. On the road, reckless driving that risked innocent lives. 2 months later, on May 9, 2024, Neil Corrigan stood in the dock at Chester Crown Court. He pleaded guilty to 4 offences, being concerned in the supply of Class A drugs, dangerous driving, failing to stop for police, and driving without insurance. The evidence was overwhelming. The court moved swiftly to sentencing. Chief Inspector John Forshaw of Cheshire Police's Roads and Crime Unit praised the officers involved, saying the pursuit had been brought to a safe conclusion despite Corrigan's dangerous manoeuvres. Corrigan was jailed for 5 years and banned from driving for 5 years and 4 months. What do you make of these cases and the sentences handed down? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you want more real UK true crime files like this, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay with us. There's always another case to uncover.